evening, everybody. It's Wednesday. That means it's the college version of the Archer Football Podcast. We've got Cleveland Clate from Ohio with her lovely Ohio mug.
Look, the birthplace of football.
Yeah. Well, if to go on the Big Ten's little promo commercial thingy, it's Rutgers.
Okay. We need to save that for another show. I think maybe next week we should talk about, aside from our game of the week, next week we should talk about each of the conferences that still exist and some of the crazy marketing campaigns that are out there for these conferences. There's some doozies. Anyway,
there's some crazy ones. So you've got me, Sonja. You've got Cleveland Kate with us. Michelle is doing some work stuff. Ugh, work. It's football. Everybody loves to talk football.
But Lisa's going to try to join us because what would be an Archer Football Podcast College Edition show if we didn't talk about Florida teams?
Or quarterbacks.
Hopefully Lisa can join us. We can talk about Miami. The U. Hey, Kristen. If you're watching us on the Twitter or on Facebook, come on over to YouTube. You can chat with everyone in the little comment section. We can see your comments. We can throw them up on the screen. We can answer questions. And if we ask questions, you can answer ours. So join us on the YouTube.
Head on over to the YouTube. So we looked at the rankings because we always have to talk about rankings because what is college football without rankings? I don't know.
Pretty rank.
Sorry. It's been a day, you guys. It's been a day. So yeah, let's start talking about the rankings. Let's take a peek at them because there were a couple shakeups. I think it's almost as if the coaches and AP were just waiting for that chance to put Alabama number one. They did.
I think they were waiting for this week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't. Can we? You know I don't like Michigan but I got reason. I know you don't like Ohio State. You got reason.
Exactly.
I feel like Alabama is the New England Patriots of the NCAA. Either you're a fan and you love them, or everybody else hates them. And I'm absolutely part of everybody else. Like I know people who could give two craps about the Big Ten in general. They don't hate Ohio State. They don't hate Michigan. They just don't care about the Big Ten. I don't know anybody who doesn't have an opinion on Alabama. And they weren't great last year. They had some good games. They have some excellent players. But you're right. From a rankings perspective, it feels like this Georgia game was very early in the season. It shook things up. Texas and Georgia have been flip-flopping the last couple weeks for that number one and number two spots. And I think the voters were they're very high on Texas. But with Arch Manning at quarterback, because Ewers is hurt, I think you saw that this week in Texas dropping down and Alabama jumping right over top of Georgia. Ohio State's just sitting there at 3, where we been, followed by, and what's interesting to me is in both polls, the AP Top 25 has Alabama. The coaches poll still has Texas.
Yes.
And the AP's got Texas. The coaches poll has Alabama. And then both of them have Ohio State, then Tennessee, Georgia, Oregon, Penn State, Miami, the U, Missouri, Michigan. Like the top 10 is the same in both polls. And that doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't.
It feels like there's a consensus on 3 through 10. They're still going to argue about 1 and 2.
Of course, they're always going to argue about 1 and 2. I don't think they're ever not going to. And with this new playoff system, you hope that it comes down to the consistent 1 and 2 throughout. But also, again, with the wonky playoff system, it might not. And so then it opens us up to more debate, more speculation, more of all the things that we love about college football.
Yeah. So if the playoffs started tomorrow,
we can say that in college now.
Alabama, Texas, Ohio State, Missouri would have a bye. The top 4 teams from each conference. We haven't had a conference championship yet. Right. There's a conference champion There's a whole lot of SEC and Big Ten schools in there. It's like, I think just looking at the list, so like the number 9 ranked team could get a bye if they're the best one from their conference. If they win their conference championship, doesn't matter if they're 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the top 4 conference champions in those rankings.
Right.
So that'll be, I like that. I like it because the conference championship games still matter a lot to give somebody a bye. So I think that's cool. But I think it's funny when you look at 1, 2, 3, 9 to find another conference in the way it's currently set up. And it would go to 12, right? So
Right.
it would go to, Michigan, USC. So anyway, let's talk about that Georgia-Alabama game. Girl, I liked Alabama, I liked Georgia. I expected Georgia to give them a run, to show up. I mean, if you didn't watch and all you saw was the final score, Alabama 41, Georgia 34, it looked like a nice close game. Georgia put up 19 points in the fourth quarter.
Right.
It was ugly until the fourth quarter. Like, Georgia fans were losing their mind at halftime. I know people who like to wager on occasion just for fun. 50 cents here, a quarter there. They're asking me who to take. I said, take Notre Dame with the spread. They won that bet. They're like, what about Georgia, Alabama? I'm like, Georgia is either the number 1 or number 2 team in the country. I have no concerns about Georgia. Bet on Georgia. I'm getting hate mail because apparently they're not that good, or Alabama is still in their head. Lisa, is Alabama still in Georgia's head? Or are they are they not as good as we thought? Or is Georgia better than we thought? I mean, is Alabama better than we thought?
They held the lead for 13 seconds. Come on. The thing about this is they're SEC. We always say it. They're SEC teams. I mean, I don't even think records matter. But I mean, is it just not fun football to watch these two go head to head? I mean, they have had crazy games. It's been great. And the only thing I can say is if you're a Georgia fan, how Kirby kept their heads in that game and did not lose those boys when it was 30-7. That speaks volumes about how they feel about this head coach. For them not to give up, kudos to that whole coaching staff for keeping those boys' head, because wow, I know you lost and it sucks for them, but my God, the amount of respect I have for Kirby Smart right now and that whole
that
staff.
Defense gave up 21 points in the first quarter.
And came back and
haven't given that up in entire games.
Right.
But to your point, Kirby kept their head in it. 9 points in the second quarter, 3 in the third quarter. Great halftime adjustments, 8 in the fourth. It was just too much for them to overcome, even with, they put up 19 in the fourth. It was too much for their offense to combat. But they made it close.
Yeah.
They did. They made it a game. And honestly, Lisa, I think that's a very refreshing take. I don't think I've seen too many people, giving props to Kirby about keeping their heads in the game and keeping them there, because
you could easily lost them. You could easily lost them at halftime. They could easily just, said, we're getting hammered. But I mean, just fast. SEC's fast. God, they got fast players. I mean, I have never seen a defense lose the edge like Georgia did. They just could not protect those edges. I mean, they were just, as soon as they were hitting them, they were gone. It was just crazy.
It was.
Yeah. So their quarterback, Milroe, Alabama's quarterback, I think was the leading rusher for their team with 117 yards. Their receiver, Williams, had 177 yards.
That's the 17-year-old?
Yeah. He's so young. Girl, and he looks every bit of that young. He's so young. I hope he stays. He's Chase because he's so young. I hope he stays 4 years. I think he has to do at least 3. But Etienne for Georgia had a nice game, but he, Trevor only put up 55 yards. You can't be the leading rusher for Georgia and only get 55 yards. That Alabama defense was there to,
eat him up.
Eat him up. But, let's talk a little bit about Milroe. Jalen Milroe is obviously in the Heisman conversation. He's the front runner at this point in this performance. You know, if people weren't thinking about him before, they are now. We'll talk a little bit about some of the other candidates. But have you watched a lot of Alabama this year? Have you seen Jalen Milroe? And does your name have to be Jalen to play quarterback in Alabama?
I think so.
Is that a good omen?
I don't think so. I think when you look, the only thing that's been bothering me lately, and it bothered me a lot, you know, it bothers me a lot in the pros too, because when you look at these quarterbacks, like in that fourth quarter, both of them, they were throwing bombs. But what drives me crazy is when you're a defense and you're backpedaling, trying to catch up to the receiver. Obviously, the receiver is going to have the better chance to adjust to the ball and catch it. And it always drives me crazy when they're like, "What a throw!" It wasn't what a throw. All he did was just throw the ball up. The receiver's the one who adjusted and caught it. But yet they give like cuckoo. Yeah. Oh my God, what a great throw. Not really. It could have easily got intercepted if the, cornerback had got set, because it's pretty much a jump ball. Those last two touchdowns for Georgia and Alabama were throw up balls that they just adjusted to and caught them and scored. And I just love how they give it.
Dylan Bell, the receiver for Georgia, and especially Ryan Williams, Alabama's receiver, know their quarterbacks and make very nice adjustments to get balls that not everybody's going to catch and make their quarterback look good.
Yeah, just at that point in the game, Georgia had no choice. And I think that, like that one when he heaved it, that guy made a great adjustment, got the ball, two receivers hit each other, and he scores. 13 seconds left. Bam. Alabama does the same thing.
Yeah, those are the kind of receivers that Pat Mahomes has, because he gets an awful lot of credit for an awful lot of pretty passes that are not pretty passes. He just has receivers who know how to adjust and
catch the ball,
bring those in.
And catch the ball. Yep.
Yeah.
There. But so Jalen Milroe played out his mind. Lots of people did. Travis Hunter, as we talk about, some of our Heisman friends.
He's Michelle's favorite player of the year.
Listen, how can he not be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's your if he keeps it, he's your Heisman winner. You might as well just hand it to him. I mean, it's, Cam Ward down in Miami, to me, he's having an outstanding season too, and he's a quarterback. But I mean, this kid plays both ways. He's just what a tremendous, tremendous athlete.
Yeah, a tremendous
so the
athlete.
four front runners as of today are Jalen Milroe, quarterback Alabama.
Yeah,
Travis Hunter, wide receiver and cornerback out of Colorado. As Lisa said, he plays both sides of the ball.
Yeah, unreal.
Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. And then running back Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. The first week of this podcast, we each talked about a player, and Michelle wanted to talk about Travis, but we picked running backs that week, so she had to wait and talk about him the next week. I brought up Jeanty. I don't know how many of y'all are watching Boise State football. He will never win. It's running backs don't win, and they don't win unless they're in a big name like an SEC or a Big Ten school. He's not going to win, but I hope he's getting a lot of love and attention, because his footwork is outstanding. His speed is amazing. I would love to have him on my NFL team when he comes out. But a couple guys that are trying to make a push and trying to crack into that top four are Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss, Quinn Ewers out of Texas. His name keeps getting thrown around. Sonja, he hadn't played since week one? He got hurt, and then Arch Manning came in. I don't know if you take Arch Manning out when just because Ewers is healthy, if Arch is still winning.
No, I think he made it a statement, didn't he, before the game that when Ewers is healthy, he'll be his starter. I think he took that right out of the equation, that he will, regardless. And I think that's Kate's point. He said that, Kate, regardless of whether they were winning or not. This was
fans and school supporters, athletic supporters are going to lose their mind if he comes in and they lose, and after winning with Arch.
Yeah, but he's already made the statement that when Ewers is healthy, it's his team.
And if he comes in and he's healthy and he plays and he does well, I don't know that he'll have enough games left to make the argument that he should be the Heisman winner with these other guys playing a whole season. Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon is another one that is just, he's got an 82% completion. I mean, that's 82% is insane. Now, a lot of that credit goes to his receivers. Nico, the quarterback in Tennessee, I'm going to leave his name right here. I know I'm saying it wrong, but I'm going to leave him right there. You know, Miller Moss, quarterback out of Southern California. I mean, all of the other ones that have a shot at kind of getting in the conversation are quarterbacks. And I just think it's funny because I think, Lisa, I think you're spot on. In a normal year, this is really the best quarterback award. I think this year, Travis Hunter,
if he keeps it up,
break that mold.
It's his. I mean, you got a guy that catches a touchdown pass and then has an interception in the same quarter. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
And he's all over. He's a ball hog. I mean, everywhere the ball is, he is.
He doesn't get
like
tired.
He's just he's crazy. And you know, like I said, he just reminds me of Bo Jackson, you know, with playing every single sport and balling out.
I mean, in the fourth quarter, he is as fast and quick and mentally.
Right?
The way he plays receiver, he mentally can flip that to play corner. He knows what that receiver is going to do. And that is such a skill to have the athleticism to not be. I'd be gassed at halftime, let alone in the fourth. And he doesn't even look gassed. He needs to be on a Wheaties box. Whatever he's eating for cereal,
he needs that.
Everybody needs that.
He's young, but in that also, you know,
he's 21. He's 21 years old.
He's young. He's 21. He's got a fantastic coach. I think that that understands kind of playing both sides of the ball and is able to kind of showcase that for him. So I think that's also been very good. But he's just
lights out.
He's literally what you think of when you think of a Heisman player.
Exactly. I think that's what it is. You hit it right spot on. Yeah, he stays healthy and he plays this. It's an easy decision.
Just that wide receiver. The last wide receiver to win the Heisman was Devontae Smith. He had 117 catches for 1,800 yards. Hunter is on pace for 110 catches and 1,400 yards. Like, he could have very comparable numbers, and that's just as a wide receiver. That's without adding his cornerback stats.
He reminds me, this Heisman season reminds me of the Heisman season with Desmond Howard.
Sonja, right? Remember that season?
Yep, that Desmond Howard when he caught with the punt returning and stuff. When he was it the punt return? Then he did the Heisman pose
against Notre Dame.
Yep, boom. And he was at that point we were talking about him with several other quarterbacks. I don't even remember who we talked about. It was like, oh no, it was like not even a thought of that. But when he did that Heisman pose and had the season that he did, it just reminds me so much of the season that Hunter's having.
Mm-hmm. You know, Cam Ward, if we're going to talk about the U a little bit, it's his first year starting as quarterback for Miami. He has the second most passing yards and the most passing touchdowns of any NCAA quarterback through 5 games. Are the U fans, like, are they believing that you're actually good this year? Because I feel like y'all haven't believed in a while.
Yeah, and it's the big famous thing is the U's back. You know, he was, and this was the missing piece that we needed. I think it was still a little bit of a mystery on exactly how he was going to fit in here and to come in. The kid's got ice water in his veins. I mean, nothing phases this kid. Good Lord. I mean, you get into the fourth down situations, he's spot on. He's just, and like I said, when you elevate play like that, and like you said, we're going to see this in several teams when they start winning and start believing in themselves, that the confidence around them just grows. And when you win games like they did last week against Virginia Tech always plays Miami hard. They always do. And it was a hard fought. It was one of the Hurricanes' worst games as far as tackling and defense. But the kid just stays poised. It's something that we have all been missing down here. And we finally got it in our quarterback. We finally found our quarterback. Regardless of what happens, he's just played lights out and everybody believes. And it's so much more relaxed, Kate. because we have a big playoff system. So it's like you can afford almost to lose a game, and because you know you're going to be there. As long as you're there at the end, that's all that matters.
Right.
Well, and that's the nice thing with this new format for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Top 12 teams get into the playoffs. Top 4 conference champions get a bye. So depending on where they're ranked, right now, I forget where you guys are sitting now, like 6 or 7 or something.
We fell. Yeah, we fell a little bit because of that struggle against Virginia Tech because they weren't ranked. So I think Miami lost a couple spots. So I think we're down at 7.
Well, and it makes me wonder where strength of schedule is going to come in. Is strength of schedule doesn't matter, I don't think, as far as the playoffs go. Y'all win the ACC, and either you'll get a bye or you won't. But you'll definitely, if you win out, you'll definitely be in the top 12. Right. But I worry that the strength of schedule is going to be a detriment to Cam trying to get to the Heisman. If people are going to argue that his yards and his wins didn't come up against tough enough opponents.
Right, and we saw that with Peyton Manning. Remember, in Tennessee, he was the Heisman favorite until it got to the SEC championship game, and they lost the game, and he lost the Heisman in that game. That he lost that Heisman, or if he'd have won that game, he would have been your Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
Who won that year?
Probably someone from Michigan.
Okay, just wondering. Anyways, but I mean, strength of schedule is one thing. Yes, I get it. I understand, but the kids can't control that. The players can't control it. You got to win the games that are in front of you. You really do. And I know that trust me, I get it. I understand when, you're playing a cupcake as everybody's starting conference play. I get it. But at the same time, you got to win the games that are in front of you. And the kids don't set that up. You just got to play it. So strength of schedule is one thing, but winning the games that are there, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. It was Charles Woodson, for those of you who aren't sure.
She had to have known that, right? She had to have
Charles
known
Woodson.
that.
It was the 90s. It was 1997. I know that because 1998 is when Peyton came out in the draft, and I didn't have a football team until 1999, and I got Tim Couch instead of Peyton Manning. I have some issues. But in the 90s, it wasn't all quarterbacks winning. It was Charles Woodson and Ron Dane and Drake, the running back from Texas? There were a lot more non-quarterbacks winning back in the day.
Yes.
I don't know. We'll talk about the Heisman a lot as the season progresses, the people that are the favorites, people that have a chance to get in. I'd liked it when Michelle's back to really get her take on should they change or be a little clearer on the criteria, because it's supposed to be the best college football player, right? And it just feels like it's just been quarterbacks for so long. And I don't know that they're giving maybe Travis Hunter will break that mold this year. And
I think he has to. He's the best player in college football right now.
Literally.
He is literally the best player in college football right now.
Yeah. Maybe give the quarterbacks their own award and then.
Well, they all do have their own awards, right? They still do have the Dick Butkus Award, right? Or did the college? Yeah. They all got these little awards.
The Lou Groza for the best kicker.
Yep, the Groza's boat kicker. Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you what, though.
I'm looking through here.
If you missed our regular NFL podcast last night, you should go watch it because we talked about kicking. The kicking game in the NFL has been on point this year. I was going to say on fleek, but I don't think the kids say that anymore. The kicking game in college, not so much. I don't know what's going on, but it has not been as good this year as it has in previous years. Not in the games I've watched.
This weekend was hard. There was a lot of misses this weekend. Ole Miss.
Oh, Miss. Oh, Miss. Oh, Miss. Oh, Miss.
One job, baby. You had one job, fella.
All right.
I'm looking. Who was the last non-quarterback to win? Devontae Smith in 2020. Before that was Derrick Henry in 2015.
I always forget Derrick won the Heisman. I always forget Derrick won the Heisman. He's just one of those guys.
Say it every time you talk to him. They don't say it on the ESPN. Derrick Henry, Heisman Trophy winning running back. Like they don't. I don't know why they don't do it the way they do with other players. There are some They let Derrick Henry's NFL career speak for itself. They don't need to keep reminding you
Right.
that
Right.
he won the Heisman. And he is killing me in Baltimore. I can't even. Killing me.
And then Mark Ingram was before Derrick Henry.
So we have back-to-back
2009.
running backs. Yeah, back-to-back running backs.
And then Sam Bradford. Anyways,
oh, mercy.
I'm just telling you. So, Lisa, we talked a little bit about the rankings right before you joined us. Have you had a chance to look at them? Do you think they got it right? Is Alabama number one or is Texas number one?
No, I think Texas is still number one. No, I think the rankings this week are a little bit of a bias because you just vaulted. Yeah, the SEC is a tough schedule. I just think it was just two SEC teams going at it. But yeah, that was a little bit favorable for me to vault them up that high. Because I honestly didn't have Georgia that high. I'm not a big fan of Beck. I'm not. I don't know.
He was seeing ghosts.
I'm just not a big fan of his. He goofy.
Yeah, Bob wants to know why on earth the Titans let Derrick Henry go. He was carrying that team. Bob, I think that's why. His back.
That's exactly why.
He was carrying that team, and I think he had enough class to very quietly say to them, y'all need to let me go. Just let me go. I don't want, unlike a Raider wide receiver who will not be mentioned, who was all over the internets today asking to be traded. I think Derrick has enough class and character to just tell them, just let me go. And frankly, Tennessee couldn't afford him. They are rebuilding, they are repurposing, they got new coaches, they're getting all new things. Why waste running back years? Because running backs don't have as many years as other positions. Why waste his good years, his last 2 or 3 really good years on a team that ain't going anywhere? So I think they did him a solid. I think he's a good dude. I do think Texas is number one, and part of the reason why I will say is Arch Manning. Your starting quarterback got hurt, and you threw your backup in, and that team is moving like it wasn't a thing. And if yours comes back healthy and goes back in, and they continue, that tells me that whole team is good. It's not one quarterback, one player. I think Jalen Milroe is carrying a lot of Alabama. That defense is for real, but he's getting some help there. And I think there are a few other teams where we're talking about their quarterbacks. But I think with Texas, that whole team is really good.
Is complete. And the fact that, like you said, Kate, Arch and then Quinn can just hopefully seamlessly go back and forth. Coaching matters, like Lisa always says.
Yeah.
And that team is a very
coach is Texas. Is that Mac Brown?
No, Steve starts.
No,
Sarks.
Got it.
Yeah. They are Sarkisian. Yeah,
I can't ever say his name.
Yeah, Steve Sarkisian, I think. But yeah, they are one complete team, top to bottom. And like I said, the fact that they can just switch in and out and hopefully they just keep winning and keep on rolling speaks to the coaching staff, speaks to the kids especially.
Yeah.
But how do you vault a team to number one when you think about it? They dropped Georgia to number 5. They're 4 spots ahead of 4 teams that are 4-0 that have not lost yet. Okay. But they had a comeback in the second half. Alabama almost lost that game. So you're gonna reward them with almost blowing a 20-something point lead and put them at number 1. That just makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't, we talk about strength of schedule. So is that where we're talking about it right now? Because they think that Georgia, because of the strength of schedule, that they give them a little bit of a bye of saying, oh yeah, well, Georgia's ranked 1. They came back, and I don't know. It's just weird. It's just, I don't understand how you put a team with 1 loss ahead.
But they didn't lose to the number 1 team. Alabama's number 1 now. They lost to like the number 8 team, and then Alabama shot up there. I thought Georgia would have fallen farther. I really did. I don't like them sitting ahead of Oregon or Penn State or Miami, who have not lost. It's like I struggle with that. But again, it's very nice that we get 12 teams. So I don't care if you're 2 or 6 or 8. We get 12 teams. We get conference champions. So they'll get buys. It'll work itself out. I'm sure we will do. We'll have a segment on one of our shows where we complain that team number 13 should have been in.
Well, yeah,
there's always that, right?
That's just going to happen.
And that's going to make us talk about later on, was it better to lose in the first couple weeks of the season than the last part of the season?
I'm a firm believer in that. You need to, if you're going to lose, you need to lose early. Look at Notre Dame, lose early, and then you have the whole season to build a body of work to get the voters to forget about that early loss. We've seen teams, Ohio State's done it, that lose in week 11 or week 12. And like, that's it. You're done. You're done. Doesn't matter that you lost to the team that ended up becoming a national champion. You lost. You're done. You're out. So early losses definitely help.
And you're looking at the bottom of the schedule, what you just talked about, when we're looking at 10, 11, and 12. We're looking at Michigan, SC, and Ole Miss. We got LSU right on the outside. We got Notre Dame right there. And then to me, there's a huge drop off. Then you have Clemson, which I still think is still a long ways away. To me, that's a long. So those last teams, look at the schedule. I mean, when you look at Michigan, SC, and Ole Miss, you know, who's going to triumph? To me, if I had taken, no disrespect for Sonja, I think Michigan is the team that I think is going to be caught right there in that loop of 10, 11, 12.
So she can speak to that. Michigan's still trying to figure out who they are with their new coach and their new things. And we're happy that they're in the top 10, but I don't think Sonja has any illusions that they're going to stay in the top 10 as the season goes on, Sonja.
I mean, honestly, so Minnesota, they played Minnesota this past weekend. And again, kind of like Alabama, they were up big and then they let them come right back. And so foot off the gas, making mistakes, things like that. That's what they need to grow. Clock management. I mean, there are like little things that they need to grow on. Would I be surprised if they slipped up and something happened? Not at all. I really wouldn't. I mean, they are talented, but they aren't like a good cohesive unit, I think, like they were last year. And to be expected, right? So learning, growing pains.
I watched that Minnesota game with my daughter's boyfriend, who's a huge Michigan fan. He actually was raised in the state of Michigan before he moved here. He wasn't one of those weird. There are weird people in Cleveland who are born and raised here and are Steelers fans and Michigan fans. And I don't get it. I don't get it. But he was actually, his dad is from there. He was born there. I don't know if they're going to get married. I have concerns. I don't know that mixed marriages will work. When you have an Ohio State fan marrying a Michigan fan,
it's tough.
Pressure. I don't know. But so we watched that game and it was highs and lows. Like they were like, bam, bam, bam. And then all of a sudden it was like they didn't show up for a quarter and they just let Minnesota back in. And you're right. They can't do that against Ohio State. They can't do that against
Penn State. No.
They can't do that against Oregon. They're going to have tougher opponents on their schedule. They may not do it against Ohio State because, again, that's a game where both teams come to play. They bring their A games and all of that kind of stuff. But I could see them running into trouble with a couple teams coming up on their schedule
for sure,
where we'll see these growing pains. I think because of the rankings and the voters and all that, I think they're getting bonus points because they're the national champions and they're winning. It's, they're 4-point wins, not 40-point wins.
Right. Exactly.
But they faced a tough USC team a couple weeks ago. And then Minnesota this week. Minnesota is no slouch. And the Big Ten schools all play each other very tough. So I don't worry about style points yet this early. Those are going to come to matter. Week 10, 11, and 12 we're going to see a lot of shaking up, especially in, I think, the bottom 4 of that top 12 is anything can happen with that group.
For sure. Well,
I think that's it for today.
I think so. I will have a poll up tomorrow for us to vote on the game to watch and talk about this week or next week, I should say.
And it will not be Georgia or Alabama.
It will not be
That is
Georgia
one of the
or
rules.
Alabama.
Any of the game of the weeks that we've watched, we cannot watch those teams play again until we get at least halfway through the season. I want to watch some different games that I wouldn't normally watch.
Right. I'm trying to see who would be a good one. Mm-hmm.
You're looking at this week's schedule?
Yeah.
Michigan State, Oregon is probably going to be a good game because I know Sparty's not ranked, but they show up to play. Missouri at Texas A&M, that's a 9 against a 25.
That might be kind of good.
Which is one of the or Utah, Boise State with, I'd love to watch some more of that running back, Ashton Genty. So why don't we say goodbye to everybody, and then me and you
we figure it out, right?
Exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, people in the chat, Chris and Bob. We appreciate you guys. Everybody watching. We will see you next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat place. Make sure you like and subscribe. All right. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.